After an incident like happened to me a couple of nights ago, one of the first people I got a hold of was Ted Nugent. He's been a friend of mine for 25 plus years. Of course, the legendary rock and roll musician, but a great guy, Second Amendment guy, great American, loves this country. Ted, first of all, it's always great to see you. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing so good at stupid. I'm celebrating maximum, absolute joyous that Donald Trump represents truth, logic, common sense, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, 10 Commandments, work ethic, law and order, all that radical stuff. This is a great stopping of the toilet flush in America. Thank you, conservative voters across the land.
You know, it's interesting. 25 years ago when we met, I was this journalist guy that was on television. I mean, you know who I am conservatively, but on TV you really couldn't take one side or the other. You, however, historically, almost 30 years ago when we met, you were already under attack because you came out not as the rock and roll, druggy, alcohol guy. You came out as a conservative American that loved the country, and that bothered a lot of people. In fact, when I met you, you were considering a run for governor of the great state of Michigan. Ted, you've been dealing with this for a long time, so this isn't a new thing like what we faced a couple of nights ago.
Yeah, it's real simple. I've always been 100% promoting and celebrating what I believe has been the tip of the culture war spear, and that is our hunting rights, killing animals to balance herds, create conservation, and have the greatest natural organic diet in the world. People hated me because I was a hunter and because I carried a gun, which is also perfect because God gave me a gift of life, and I have the moral, intellectual, and spiritual obligation to defend that life, i.e. keep and bear arms. So they would attack me for two perfect functions, conservation and self-defense.
Right.
And so I have been having death threats for the last 60 plus years because the people on the other side, there is a division. I am divisive. I divide between good and evil. Evil wants to kill me because I eat venison and believe in the Second Amendment. So there's a real deep evil out there, and Donald Trump is the answer to that, and so is thinking Americans. So what happened to you, I train every day just because I like guns. I like shooting. I like the discipline of marksmanship. Plus, I'm a sheriff deputy, and I do raids with the U.S. Marshals. Boy, am I having fun. So my adrenaline understanding of life and death situations is right there in front of my face. So I enjoy shooting. So people who have threatened my life, they better be fast and they better be good because I'm always ready for them.
Ted, what is your comment? You've been somebody who's a sheriff deputy for a long time. You've been associated with the military, with police forever, long as I can remember, and probably even beyond that. What are your thoughts about the bad guy trying to use the cops against people like you and me? They wanted me to die by cop that night, or my family to face that sort of end. Why is it that they've decided this is the route they're going to go, do you think?
Well, once again, when I was growing up, Democrats and Republicans could have a conversation because the Constitution and goodwill and decency, good over evil, was still the mantra of the American dream, regardless whether you were a Democrat or Republican. So we had conversations, and we were able to get our truth and our belief system to the public, and they would vote accordingly. Wow, what a Democrat idea that is.
Right.
And so I have always aligned myself with the heroes of the military and law enforcement. And when I would do radio interviews, I would always promote law and order, good over evil. And that has morphed into a savagery, a diabolical level of evil hate where the other side doesn't want to have a conversation because they've proven they don't have an agenda for good, decent American families. They just hate conservatives. They just hate hardworking people. They hate people that get in the way of their criminal corruption, siphoning our tax dollars for their own benefit. So it's not just a disagreement anymore. We are literally at war with the left because they don't want to disagree. They want to kill us.
Yes.
So God bless you, Joe, for calling 911 because the law enforcement are the good guys, but they have to respond to a claim that a shooting and murder is happening, what they did to Marjorie Taylor Greene and a bunch of conservatives, and now it's happened to you. So thank you for exposing this because the cops are doing the right thing, and thank God you did the right thing, and you let them know that the false accusations were indeed false, like all of the hate against me. Every accusation against me is 100% false, but you can tell I'm actually getting a kick out of it because good people have really figured it out, and I have incredible support. You have incredible support.
Yes.
Donald Trump has incredible support.
Yeah, it's so diabolical, though, Ted. It's Ted Nugent, by the way. TedNugent.com, rock and roll legend, friend of ours, incredible man. It's so diabolical. Let me not only get the conservative voice to either shut up because we scared him so much, which isn't going to happen, or kill him, but let him die at the hands of another entity that we hate, the police, because now the police would be the bad guy, too. I mean, that's sick on many levels.
Well, stop and think what the division is. How could you not be for secure borders for America? The other side hates that. How could you not be for safeguarding women's rights, keeping men out of athletic competitions and Olympic competitions? How can you? That's insanity. How can you be for torching our hard-earned tax dollars to transgender mice in a laboratory, or support Dr. Fauci or the Biden crime family, or to send pornography to Peru, or to have condoms in Jerusalem? The abject, criminal, vile, obscene waste of our tax dollars by the Democrats and the rhinos who haven't stood up and stopped this.
Yes.
The only good American in politics right now, and in the bureaucracies, the only good ones, whistleblowers. So, my ladies and gentlemen, blow the whistles, because the corruption is running amok out there.
Rock and roll legend Ted Nugent. Go to tednugent.com. We'll talk about the NugeVault coming up. Certainly, Stranglehold 50th anniversary, amazing. I want to finish up on this, though. And you and I talked personally before this, and a lot of F-bombs were dropped, which I'm glad, because that's what you want to say. First, you see a guy on your camera with a gun, and then you yell that word, and then you call 911. But just, if you don't mind, give some advice, because people who love you and have followed your career and your love for America and your love for the Second Amendment and hunting and so on, they might have reacted differently than I did the other night. They might have said, let me grab my gun and go see who the hell this guy is by my front door. If you don't mind, just talk to them for a second, because I carry guns because of your tutelage 25 years ago. I never used to, but I've got guns now very near where I'm sitting, because I'm ready to protect my family and myself if I have to. What advice do you give somebody who at 2:30 in the morning finds a stranger with a gun at the front door?
Well, I think you laid out the perfect reaction, Joe. In this day and age where the left literally lies and just unleashes such hate against conservatives and Republicans and people who stand up for God, family, country, law, and order, that they will lie to the law enforcement heroes, and the law enforcement heroes will have to respond accordingly. So what you did, you called 911 immediately. We should all have cameras at our front and back door.
Yes.
I think that's where you start. And if there is a knock at the door, or you think that someone's trying to break in, call 911 right away and explain exactly who you are, what your address is, and what you're dealing with. But as I train my sons and daughters, my grandkids, my band, my crew, Mrs. Nugent and I train always, because it's fun to be ready. We have a system where we turn on all the lights. We call 911 right away. And with the other phone, we call our sheriff, who's a dear friend, Sheriff Parnell McNamara,
right,
because he'll send his SWAT team on our behalf to clarify if it's a swatting and it's a false accusation of danger happening, and the law enforcement responds. But get in a corner of a room, have your firearm, but do not hang on to it in case they do breach the door and enter the house. Now, see, there's the dichotomy.
Right.
Because if it's the bad guy, you've got to be prepared. So familiarity with your firearm, being able to clearly articulate your condition to 911,
yes,
and ultimately tactics. Tactics are everything. You should have a safe room, and if you can, go to that safe room while you stay on 911,
yes,
and explain your situation. But you handled it right. And law enforcement, we are so pumped up with adrenaline if there's a claim that danger and life-threatening behavior is occurring, that the safety's off, the finger's on the trigger.
Yeah.
We want to neutralize evil. I've done raids with the U.S. Marshals where the adrenaline is palpable, because I'm going after a murderer. Who let the murderer out? I'd like to go after him. But yeah, there's an engineered recidivism in our country where our failed court system keeps letting out these dangerous, violent criminals. So we have to be cognizant that that could be the scenario unfolding. So it's quite a dichotomy. Right. Best thing, I think, Joe, is be ultra familiar with your firearm, have a safe room, have a great relationship with your police, your sheriff, and your state troopers.
100%.
Know them. Make sure they know who you are. Sit down with them. Introduce yourself to them. Support them, so that when the call comes in, they're not scrambling to figure out who it is. They should already know who you are.
Well, there are a couple of positives. By the way, Motor City Madman, Ted Nugent, tednugent.com, go there. A couple of positives that came out of it. I think, number one, we're educating people on how to react to a situation like this, because it's not going to slow down because the left doesn't have an argument. The second good thing is that it means that we're effective. It means that they cannot, through words and through policy, counteract what you and I are saying and doing. And I think that's a feather in my cap, but thankfully I still have a head to wear a cap because they wanted me dead that night. Ted, in seeing how this is going on, do you see, let me bring up Gavin Newsom. The far left are the people that are sending people to my front door. It's not the Gavin Newsoms of the world where I think they see an opening. Suddenly he's a moderate guy. Suddenly he's not for men and boys competing against women and girls. Suddenly he's seeing more down the middle because you know damn well he wants to run for president. You think people are going to buy that people like him are moderating?
Well, unfortunately, you've seen me do a lot of interviews, and there's 2 points to be made here. I've been doing interviews nonstop since the early 1960s with the Amboy Dukes because people are fascinated by my energy and musical adventure creativity. Plus, I have fun with linguistic ballerina moves. And my point is, I'm very passionate about all these subjects that bring quality of life, from the music to conservation to self-defense to just being a good neighbor and a good American and a good person. But whenever the interviewer wants to counter what I have to say, they go, well, let me be devil's advocate. Well, if you're going to counter the truth, logic, and common sense that I represent, you would be the devil's advocate. So go for it.
Yes.
And that is the identity that I'm trying to convey here. They are the devil. The Gavin Newsom, he thinks that men should be able to beat the tar out of women in sports. He thinks that an open border bringing in fentanyl, killing more people in America every year than during the entire Vietnam outrage. Newsom and the left, if you have a D behind your name, if you're a Democrat, you're a liar, you're a hater. You think men should destroy women's sports. You believe in an open border. You have red carpeted the fentanyl chemical warfare by the communist Chinese and the Mexican drug cartel government, because the Mexican drug cartel is the Mexican government. And if you're a Democrat, that's your team. Your team is dangerous. Your team is criminal. Your team is racist. Your team is hateful. So don't try to tell me that if you're on that team that you don't believe in everything your team represents. Gavin Newsom, you're a lying, hypocritical, dishonest, untrustworthy punk.
I couldn't have said it better myself, Ted. So you're saying you're not buying it. It is tednugent.com. Go there for all things Nuge. Also, NugeVault we'll talk about in a second. I want to make a hard shift of gears here to something that's near and dear to my heart. I'm a musician. I'm not Ted Nugent level musician, but I'm a musician. You know that I love music. I love talking to you about music. I was watching a clip from Rogan the other day. I'm not sure if you caught this, but he had a comedian on, and he said,
I did see it, yeah.
He said something about Ted Nugent. And the guy said, I don't know who that is. Now, the guy must be, completely without any culture if he doesn't know who Ted Nugent is. But having said that, Rogan says, Stranglehold. He says, what? Well, what's that? And Rogan starts, he goes, and he starts like trying to sing Stranglehold. Then they played part of it, and the guy goes, oh, yeah, I know that. Everybody knows that. So you're part of the culture, as you said, for 60 years. There are new people coming up who are still learning about your greatness and what effect that you've had on music through the years. But how good must that feel? You got a guy like Joe Rogan who's my age. You're a little bit older than we are. And then the guy who we had on was younger than us. We're all talking about Ted Nugent's Stranglehold, which, God, I can't believe this number. God bless you. 50 years. That song has been out for 50 years now. Talk to me about just that song, what it means, and how it still impacts culture.
Well, Joe Rogan admitted that the song Stranglehold is the definitive theme song for a warrior. Yeah. I hear from Delta Force and the Navy SEALs, the Army Ranger, the Green Beret, the greatest warriors, all of the SWAT guys that I train with. When they get ready to go into danger, they play Stranglehold. You should see the photos and the footage that I get from heroes around the world, where when they're training and they really have to be the ultimate warrior, they play the song Stranglehold. Now, I wasn't thinking in terms of warrior and I didn't write it. I just unleashed these licks because I'm always playing my guitar. I still crave musical adventure, even as an old 76-year-old guy. But it represents the timelessness of what my fellow musicians, my bandmates at the time in 75, it was the incredible Derek St. Holmes, Cliff Davies, and Rob Grange. I've always had the most dedicated, gung-ho, over-the-top, gifted virtuosos at my side who were raised by Chuck Berry, Bo Diddley, Little Richard, James Brown, Motown Funk Brothers. And so that musical authority of our black heroes, it impacts every musical moment that we share and collaborate. So what Stranglehold represents was the Amboy Dukes playing 300 to 350 concerts a year. I swear to God. This year,
Wow.
I'll be doing my 7,000th concert, some speakeasies here in Texas and back in Michigan. And the energy and the pulsations, the spirit of the music, it owns you if you approach it properly, which is as a martial arts, a samurai moment where you immerse yourself in the groove, the grind, the dynamic, the tonations, the choice of patterns and melodies, and even dissonance, wonderful, sexy dissonance. So Stranglehold was the culmination of thousands of concerts in front of millions of people where this lick caused this excitable reaction, and it went into your computer break, and you didn't replicate it, but it influenced the next jam session. And Stranglehold and Cat Scratch Fever and my new songs. I got a new song called Butterfingers, because when I play these songs, I have Butterfingers. And on the last record, a song called Born in the Motor City and Detroit Muscle and Come and Take It. Even my
Love
new
'em.
music still has, and what you use, their Love Grenade guitar.
Love Grenade. Yeah.
It's James Brown, Motown, Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Bo Diddley, Howlin' Wolf, all coalesced into a pulse that, once again, is only so powerful because of my bandmates. John Kutz on drums, Johnny Big on bass guitar here in Texas, Jason Hartless, who has created this Nugent Vault. And the Nugent Vault is called NugeVault.com. It documents cases and caverns, a vault of cassettes and recordings and outtakes and jam sessions, and it chronicles and the chronology of my developing my Chuck Berry licks and turning them into Ted Nugent variations of that. And the Nuge Vault will be available, I think, tomorrow or something. Like, you go to NugeVault.com. But what Jason Hartless has found in my barn, the videos and the tapes and the cassettes and the reel-to-reel and the recordings, the outtakes, the jam sessions, it's unbelievable, because I'm so focused on tomorrow's music that I forgot about what happened in 1962 as I'm going to the Walled Lake Casino with Billy Lee and the Rivieras and my band of Lords and Martha and the Vandellas. The history is just, it's so stimulating. I'm so proud and so thankful for people giving me this career, because it's the people who love the music that have given me this career. So I love you people beyond words.
I did a night with Priscilla Presley at a theater here in San Antonio area. It was like a couple of hours, an audience there, her talking about her life. And I asked her, what was your favorite Elvis song? And she said, If I Can Dream. And that was also my favorite Elvis song. What is your favorite Ted Nugent song? Do you have one? Let me guess. I think it's Fred Bear. But I'm willing to hear you say I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, if I had to pick one, it would be Fred Bear. A lot of people don't know the song Fred Bear, but Toby Keith and Blake Shelton told me they wish they would have written it, because it's what a country song is supposed to be. It's about your love for a hero in the world of conservation, farming, ranching, environmental awareness and resource stewardship, and the freedom of the hunting, outdoor, independent lifestyle. But Stranglehold and Cat Scratch Fever, Free for All, Dog Eat Dog, Baby Please Don't Go with the Amboy Dukes, Great White Buffalo, my Stormtroopin', when we play Come and Take It and turn it into Let's Go Brandon on stage, and the song Detroit Muscle from the last record.
Right,
when we play these songs, I try to put together a 2-hour set list, and it's agonizing, because if I played all my favorite songs, I'd be up there for 11 hours, and my bandmates, it's hard to choose. But you're right, the Fred Bear song, the response that I've gotten from that song from little kids and old guys, how it brought families back together. Yeah. And when a Navy SEAL family was bringing home a flag-draped coffin, they played the Fred Bear song as a request by the dead hero. Yeah. I don't know how much more human of an impact and connection a person can celebrate than a Navy SEAL requesting my song Fred Bear at his memorial. And I have 100 stories like that.
Well, I feel that depth when I hear the song. And listen, I grew up with Cat Scratch Fever. I did not grow up with these other songs. But seeing you in concert and being friends for so long, I became aware of that. And in concert, and I believe they still called it, what they call it, PNC or something now in Detroit, DTE, whatever. It's Pine Knob to me.
It's Pine Knob.
Yeah, it's freaking Pine Knob. Come on. So I'm there with my wife back in the early 90s, and I'm listening to Fred Bear, and I'm going, I don't know this song, but I feel the depth of it. Does that make sense? It's got depth.
Well, when somebody snuck a cassette, I only made the cassette. We captured the song. It was just an emotional outrage. I couldn't stop crying because Fred had died. I love the man. My mom had just recently died, and it came out as organically and naturally and instinctively from my heart and the guitar. The pattern is haunting, but it's loving. It's a memory of a great man, but it's also the heartbreak of losing him, no matter who that person might be in your life.
Right.
And the radio people that got it thought it was a song called Fred the Bear. No,
oh, come on.
It wasn't an animal. It's actually a friend of mine, Fred Bear, who was the father of modern bow hunting. And that song, let me give another example. A little boy, 6 years old from Mississippi, was dying of cancer, and his last request in life to make a wish was to have Ted Nugent play Fred Bear for him.
Oh, wow.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm pretty good with words, but I'm helpless to express what that means. But I think we all understand. So even people that have nothing to do with bow hunting or conservation or the outdoor lifestyle, when they hear the Fred Bear song, it's so powerfully emotional that everybody has a Fred Bear, even if they have no idea who my Fred Bear was. And that's the connection. When I play that song live, no matter where it is, Joe, people's feet don't touch the ground. From little boys and girls to old guys older than me singing every lyric. In fact, we created an annual Fred Bear official day in Grayling, Michigan, home of Fred Bear Archery, because that song has brought so many people together to remember the great man Fred Bear. So I love it. It's powerful. It's super powerful.
I know you got to go, and I got Rudy Giuliani coming up. I'm going to tell him that you said hello.
Yes, he's my friend. I love Rudy.
He's amazing. Before I let you go, was the biggest commercial success Cat Scratch Fever?
Geez, I don't think you could name any one moment or song because I've sold 40 million records.
Oh, wow.
I just had my mechanic here, and we were singing Stranglehold together. It comes on the radio and my truck goes faster. It really is an accumulation. And again, Joe, I attribute it, I've always said this, to my bandmates. Right now with John Kutz, Johnny Big, Jason Hartless, my buddy Greg Smith, all my incredible musicians.
Yeah.
God has blessed me with such heart and soul gifted musical geniuses. So when you hear a great grinding, rhythmical, sexy Ted Nugent song, it's not just Ted Nugent. Those are my bandmates and the producers and the engineers and the crew that we all work to make it sound like we want it to sound and feel like we want it to feel. And again, the credit goes back to James Brown and Chuck Berry and Little Richard, the outrage that those people created. And the Motown Funk Brothers, who I got to share the Cobo Hall stage with when I was 15. I mean, am I the luckiest son of a bitch in the history of music or what?
You're pretty lucky. I'll say this. You're very humble when you talk about the band, and you're right. I believe it's the best rhythm section available anywhere and has been for a long time. Yeah. Without that lick, no matter what Love Grenade, I know what the song is. Cat Scratch, I know what it is. Fred Bear, Stranglehold, Wango Tank. I know every song by the lick that you created in that brain that's behind the face we're looking at right now. So, I mean, you deserve all the credit in the world, and thank you for all these years of friendship, and thank you for continuing to let me use Love Grenade as my theme on my program, because every time I hear it, I'm ready for 3 hours of greatness, and you always set that off.
Those licks come. I played my guitar today. I got this beautiful Gibson Birdland that Toby Keith and Doug Banker gave me for my 60th birthday party. The Gibson Custom Shop made this great white Buffalo Ted Nugent guitar. And I pick it up, and I'm an old man, but you'd think I was a horny teenager when these licks come out, because I'm still inspired by that cadence, that groove and grind of Chuck Berry's creation. He created this stuff.
Right.
And so I'm a lucky man. And again, I've been clean and sober for 76 years, so stuff still works pretty good.
I love it.
And that's how, so when you hear a guitar lick, it's so instinctive. It's what I, as a music lover, want to hear. But because I practice so diligently forever that my hands can take me to what my ears crave. How about that explanation? Is that a great explanation?
If imagine how our ears crave it, that you created it. So listen, thank you so much. I really, really appreciate you, Ted. Thanks for coming on today. Go to NugeVault.com, NugeVault.com, and go listen. If you haven't heard Stranglehold in a while, go listen to it. It's the 50th anniversary, if you can believe it. Thank you, my brother. Appreciate the time.
All right, I'm going to send you a 50th anniversary Ted Nugent t-shirt that we got at TedNugent.com. Thank you, Joe. I love you, buddy.
I'll wear it proudly. Love you back, my friend. Thank you. We're back after this. Stay right here.